All right, y'all. Welcome to another edition of Literary Analysis with Dr. Martin. Today I want to go over Hills Like White Elephants, a notoriously easy yet difficult story, because what Hemingway does here is employ the iceberg theory. Now, if you think about an iceberg, I think something like 9/10 of the iceberg is underwater. It's subsumed. Hemingway does the same thing in all of his literature, specifically this story, where the bulk of the story is hidden. All right. On the outset, this seems like just two people waiting for a train discussing something. Now, what that is going to be important, but what is really important is what is underneath the surface. And the way that we come to understand what is underneath the surface is through understanding characterization. So in this little video, I want to explain how characterization shines light on both the characters and the story's overall theme. And if we have time, we will discuss the theme in more detail. Hopefully we do, but I'm only allowed 15 minutes on Screencast-O-Matic unless I upgrade to the more expensive version, which I'm a professor, I don't have that kind of money. So we'll start with the 15-minute edition. All right, so like I said, this story, the setting takes place in Spain, sometime between the First World War and the Second World War. Hemingway fought in World War I. He had exposure to Spain. He was in Spain for a bit, and Spain became very central to a lot of his work. So in this story, a man, an American, and a woman, presumably American, are having drinks. Now, it's important here, the woman's name is Jig, J-I-G, but the man is just the American. Now, why might he be unnamed? Well, on one hand, he stands in for the everyman, for everybody, kind of like a young Goodman Brown type figure. Yet, on the other hand, by not naming him, what Hemingway has forced us to do is look at him as a static character, someone who really doesn't change. He's very simple. Jig, on the other hand, is named, which implies that she has a lot more nuance. And in fact, her dialogue highlights her level of nuance. But what I want to do here, I want to look at dialogue to see how the characters interact and what their relationship is, okay? So they're having drinks, and we can tell immediately something's not right. The man is not totally listening to what the woman says, what Jig says. She says the hills are like white elephants. White elephants. Now, this is a very, very important simile. A simile is just a comparison of two things using like or as. White elephants, as a simile, is a term for something that is really costly and it is seemingly without value. So it costs a lot, but it is seemingly without monetary value, if that makes sense. It seems like a paradox at first, but it's not. So think of it like this way. It is an object that costs a lot to maintain, but it is worth very little monetarily or not at all. All right. So this idea of the white elephant, something that is worth a lot to maintain, but has no trade value. All right. So they're having drinks or whatever, and the woman says something interesting. She's talking about the drink. She says, "It tastes like licorice," the girl said, and put the glass down. The man says, "That's the way with everything." "Yes," said the girl, "everything tastes of licorice, especially all the things you've waited so long for, like absinthe." All right, so the idea that everything tastes like licorice. Now think of what licorice tastes like. It's bitter. Okay, what she's saying here is not only does the drink taste like licorice, but something in their life, something they've waited for, doesn't really taste exactly the way it should. Something's not going the way it should in their relationship. We keep going down, and we keep getting the impression that the man is not listening to what the girl is saying. "They're lovely hills," she said. "They don't really look like white elephants. I just meant the coloring of their skin through the trees. Should we have another drink?" "All right." The warm wind blew the bead curtain against the table. "The beer's nice and cool," the man said. "It's lovely," the girl said. "It's really an awfully simple operation, Jig," the man said. "It's not really an operation at all." So they're discussing an operation. Now, what the operation is not totally clear on the outset, but something is going on in their relationship. The relationship has hit a roadblock, and it's based on this operation. Now, this operation is kind of difficult, but if we use context clues, I'll go with you and I'll stay with you all the time. They just let the air in, and then it's all perfectly natural. Then what will we do afterward? We'll be fine afterward, just like we were before. What makes you think so? That's the only thing that bothers us. It's the only thing that made us unhappy. The girl looked at the bead curtain, put her hand out, and took hold of 2 of the string of beads. And you think then we'll be all right and happy? I know we will. You don't have to be afraid. I've known lots of people that have done it. So have I. And afterward, they were all happy. You get kind of a distancing between the speakers by the way they talk. The girl seems to be more realistic. She seems to know that perhaps what happens at the end of this operation won't be totally positive. The guy, on the other hand, the American, who's not undergoing an operation, seems to be oblivious to the woman's concerns. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, what is this operation? And I'll go ahead and spill the beans. They are talking about an abortion. Yes, this is a story about an abortion. They're using parlance of the times, let the air in, but it is a story about an abortion. That makes sense when we discuss what the white elephant is. Well, then one can interpret the white elephant as the child, right? Think about how a child is incredibly valuable intrinsically. If you want a child, but you obviously can't sell your child. Hopefully you can't do that, right? We don't live in a slave society. It costs a lot to maintain. It costs a lot monetarily. Sometimes people have children, they split up because of the child. It costs a lot. But it has no monetary value, right? It costs a lot, and it can ultimately end up destroying a relationship. The man in the story is really pushing for an abortion, but the woman seems to have some doubts. She's going along with it, sure, but she's having some doubts. These doubts and this hesitation about their future post-abortion is made clear in this bit of dialogue. What did you say? I said we could have everything. We can have everything. And she says, no, we can't. We can have the whole world. She says, no, we can't. We can go everywhere. No, we can't. It isn't ours anymore. It's ours. No, it isn't. And once they take it away, you never get it back. So here, following the white elephant, following the abortion metaphor, we can interpret the story, once they take this baby away, once I have an abortion, things are not going to be the same. The world will not be ours anymore. Our relationship may fall apart. The world is not going to be the same. It's at this point that the man is unresponsive, not quite understanding, right? Going back to the idea that he's a static character. He doesn't change much. The girl wants to stop talking. She says, can't we stop talking? They sat down and the girl's looking at the hills again, far away look. And the guy keeps talking. He keeps talking, and she just doesn't want to talk about it anymore. She doesn't want to think about this abortion anymore because obviously she is very conflicted. And eventually he keeps talking enough and she says, would you please, 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 please stop talking, right? Look at the repetition of please. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. The repetition of please stop talking just shows you how much their relationship is at a breaking point because of this abortion. All right. Again, we get the fact that Jig is incredibly complex. She's paying attention to things. She's looking at the train station. She's looking at the hills across the river Ebro. She's saying they look like white elephants. She understands how their world will change once they have this abortion. But the man, the American, the unnamed American, the static character, is either too stupid or too emotionally removed from this woman to understand. And think about the setting of the story. They're They're at a turning point in their relationship. They're waiting for a train. Once they get on that train, they're going someplace differently. Once they have an abortion, their relationship is going somewhere differently, somewhere different. This is ultimately a story that says a lot through very little. This is a very real concern when we think about what happens with contemporary relationships today. This is a story about abortion. And this is a story about what happens when one side is unable to empathize with the other point of view. This is a story about a couple whose future is uncertain. And Hemingway shows us this uncertainty through the sparseness of the dialogue. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful day.